rental properties are more forgiving than flipping. I'm not against flipping. I like flipping. It's fun. It's a lot more fun, actually, to be frank about it. But real long-term wealth is built on the foundation of rental properties. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay. Um, so I guess I kind of let the cat out of the bag there. Have you wondered, is it possible to build a portfolio in as few as 5 years or even 3 years or even 1.5 years? And the answer is yes to all of the above. I was a little slow when I built the first part of my rental portfolio. In about a year's time, I was making as much for my rentals as I was for my day job. And without going into a lot of details, I was a corporate VP. I did mergers and acquisitions in one of the big national banks that you probably recognize if I mention them, and doing pretty good as far as the corporate world goes. I started investing because I got tired of the corporate world. And within a year, I was making enough in my rentals to match my corporate salary, which was pretty good at the time. It was 6 figures. So in any case, moving forward, though, the rentals is what really bought me my freedom. It took me another 6 months to have the guts to retire. I have children, 401k, the whole 9 yards. 5 weeks vacation. It was a lot to give up, and it was scary because I was 40 years old. I've been in the business world for 18 years, and everybody thought I was nuts for leaving. But I'm just telling you, if you ever wondered, is it possible? I'm living proof. Some of the folks on the call today actually know me personally, and it absolutely is. You can definitely do it. Here's the challenge, though. Just like anything in life, there's a yin and the yang. And I want to do a quick. Give me a hand raise or type in your chat box. If you've had rentals, did they ever cause you headaches? Or if you've not had rentals, have you heard about the headaches that occur in rentals? So go ahead and type that in your chat box, or if you want to do a hand raise. I'm gonna bring up the grid again for our pictures. Yeah, I'm telling you, it works, but it's not without paying some dues. And for me, paying some of those dues is all this gray hair. Every one of those gray hairs is a tenant story. So the reality is there are ways to build the business without making yourself get old too quickly. Okay. So would you like me to show you that? Well, I guess you would because you're here tonight. So let's go ahead and jump in here. Here's who it's for. If you're not invested before, generally people dream of being financially free. I know I did. We grew up, our parents separated and I was wearing Goodwill clothes and on a school lunch program and things like that. We had food stamps when I was little. My mom eventually remarried to a real nice guy named Bruce, and it was probably the best stepdad a guy could ever ask for. And things changed, but he gave me the confidence to dream of being able to do. He encouraged me to do things like this. Okay, he did not hold me back. How about this? You don't live the lifestyle that you want to. You want to have a bigger house, go on more vacations, things like that, but you're just not able to do it. Or how about if you aren't building wealth and income fast enough to be able to do those things, or you own a business and that's all you do. And I'm telling you, there's some of the folks on the call tonight are business owners, particularly the investor agents, because they own their own business or run their own business, and sometimes you find yourself working all the time. Or how about this? You couldn't leave your day job if you wanted to. You're stuck. That was when I left the bank. Everybody there, well, you really find out who your friends are when you retire early. The ones who are happy for you, they're coming up congratulating you, and they realize it's an abundant world and maybe they can do it too. And the ones who don't, scarcity minded, generally filled with a little bit of resentment and jealousy, will turn their backs, because you're lucky, that kind of thing. Luck had nothing to do with it, It was just good old fashioned hard work. In any case, you want more free time, or you basically just want to be free. And I'm telling you, recurring passive income isn't just financial freedom. In the business world, it's the ultimate freedom. It's when your money makes more money for you, when your money pays you, okay, that's financial freedom. So here's what we're going to discover, right? There's definite steps involved with doing this. Just like anything, like I promise you, and I'm speaking right to you now, whatever you've done in life, you had to learn how to do it. Would you agree? For a vocation, a business you run, a job you have, or a profession you're in, guaranteed some way along the line there was a system to learn and a process to learn. It's the same thing here, and I promise you're gonna get that. Okay, so the path of profit is simply a body of knowledge, and so you can if you're interested, the person who invited you here tonight, you can talk to them about getting one of the programs, and I suggest do the one on rentals. It's very inexpensive. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars. I promise you that. Okay. Join your local gig if you haven't done it. Join your gig group. It doesn't matter where you are because it's all online right now. Okay. But the path includes the training, the education, the systems, the tools, the processes in place to properly identify, analyze, and negotiate good rental properties. And a critical part of your team are some of the folks on the call tonight, your investor agents. Okay. So for the investor agents, if you want to type in your name on the chat box for everybody to see your name and your email, if you want to do that, and let them know where you are, by the way, so we know what part of the country, or just your state. Put in your state. How about that? Your name and your state, and put in there investor agent. And for those of you who are investors, I suggest you do a screenshot or write those down. Okay. One of the most important people on your team is the investor agent. I know that I'm living proof. When I got my license, it's because there really were not any investor agents in any professional structured capacity. We had to make that happen. We built a brokerage company that did just that. Okay, so in any case, why choose the path? Because the alternative is you're walking through a minefield on your own. And wouldn't you rather walk through a minefield following someone who knows the way? That's why you do it. Okay, time is now. I'll tell you what. One thing I love about investing is it's not that we don't care about the economy. We do, but what we really want to know is what is the economy doing, because that tells us what strategies we might use, okay? And the reason we always say now is a good time to invest is it is. I might not necessarily flip right now because the market seems to be teetering on the edge. We're at or near the top of this market. Inflation's at a real inflation rate is 10%. But what happens is, if you notice in the market, the people that are selling are generally selling single family homes. They're not selling the multifamily because smart investors know it's a good thing to have right now. All right. So for those of you who haven't jumped in yet, I suggest you jump in. And when we got so many, we have funding sources for you that are outside mainstream banking, and it's not all necessarily hard money either. So in any case, a little bit about me briefly. I've been around 35 years around the world of investing. I've written 7 books, created 6 training programs, and have taught probably 24,000 people. And it's usually in classrooms and one-on-one. It's a little bit unique. I don't do the big auditorium kind of thing. I actually had done that. I did that for about 2 years, and it'll wear you out, okay? Traveling everywhere, staying in hotels, eating in restaurants. It's fun for a minute, and then it gets really old fast. So in any case, got a lot of experience, but it doesn't make me a genius at anything. What it makes me is prepared. And I put this slide in here, and I know Tom Zackler is recognized as the face of this young man right here. That's my son, Andrew. We're on a scouting trip here. And if you notice, we're in Whitewater. This is out in the upper Arkansas River in Colorado, near Salida, Colorado. And would you say we're properly equipped? We got life vests, we got helmets. You know, we can't see, but we got sunscreen. We're wearing wetsuits. We got our paddles. We're all wearing sunglasses. We're pretty well prepared. That's the key. So my objective is for you is to help you be prepared no matter what the economy is doing. Okay. You always will be able to invest. I'm going to check the chats here. I see some chats coming in. And while I'm checking the chats, I just want to tell you guys something. What's interesting about this picture is, what do you think happened about 5 minutes after this picture was taken? That's right. We went swimming. They couldn't swim our life vests and helmets. So there's Target's information, Steve, Betty, Tony, PF, Anthony Wester, good to see you. Yep, he's with Betty, Tom Silvestri. I think that's everybody here. Excellent. Heard of headaches. That's PF. Thanks, PF. Yep. Okay, so let's close that out. Yep, we took a big drink after that, and it was a little bit scary, quite frankly, but thank goodness we were prepared. we went down what's called a washboard. So this was a channel. The river kind of straight down. It was basically a bed of boulders, and we were just getting bounced all over the place. I mean, think of this for the wetsuits because it kind of held us together. In any case, what happens if you're not prepared? Well, this is the kind of stuff you see. This is a property I went to look at with a client of mine several years ago. It was a real nice duplex. This deck was right off the master bedroom. It was an amazing place, but the people abandoned it when they left. And this was actually a doghouse that had been taken over from some new tenants. That's, I guess, Ricky and Rocky Raccoon, and they were not paying rent. And by the way, it was kind of scary because they looked kind of like they had rabies. It was not a safe thing to. All I did was open up the sliding glass door and took the picture. But this is what it looks like, when you don't have a good rental business. Your place looks like a dump, and you got bad tenants. Don't be that person. Learn, do the homework, and you can get a place that looks more like this. So I want you to please write this down. This is critical. There's actually 3 parts to being successful in this business. Part number 1 is you have to have the right education. Can't do without it. Got to have the right education from the right source. Number 2 is you got to have the right information. And the cool thing about the right education is it shows you how to get and use the right information. Okay. All right. And the third step requires you to take and go ahead and type in what you think the answer is here. What is the third step? You got the education, the information. The third step requires you to take and type it in. Let's see what kind of answers we get. Take a break, take a nap. Nope, it's action. That's it. Take action. That's exactly right. I tell you, there's plenty of smart people in the world. There are. But the ones who succeed are the ones who take action. By the way, I'll tell you more about this building a little bit later on. It's actually for sale, and I sold it 6 years ago, nearly doubled my money, and now it's for sale again for twice what I bought it for. They want like 3.6 for it, or what I sold it for, excuse me. And I'm not sure I'm going to buy it, but we'll see. And again, before all that, it's a kind of a gloomy picture because I was actually doing okay, guys, but I was in Pittsburgh working was anything but a 9-to-5 job. I had a cot in my office. I was getting promoted, but I was miserable and not very happy at all. All right. Then the world changed. Okay. There was a big recession. There was a divorce. I broke my back in 2 places. I mean, it was really multiple things at the same time. And thank goodness I had rental properties already, and it was enough for us to live off of. Okay. Not a good time, but what it required me to do is to take action. And sometimes there were days I didn't know what was going to happen the next day. By the way, that's me up here. Okay, that's the year my son graduated high school. That's me over here with my trusty hound dog, Lily, out in West Virginia. That was coming out of the dark times. And here's well after the dark times, paddleboarding into a wave out in Ventura Beach, California. And that's my dad and I. It's going to see him, not this weekend, but next weekend. So it's happy times, right? But it takes a little bit of faith and a lot of action. So real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate one property for you right now, and then we're going to go into some lessons, things you need to know. So I picked an old property because it was, number one, the numbers are small, so it's easy to digest, and it had everything, and everything had to do with buying rental properties. This property had it, okay? So it was owned by an attorney, and she was moving to New Orleans after a divorce. They wanted to sell this, and she advertised owner financing. So I said, okay, I'm going to call her up, because at the time, interest rates were 8 and 9%. And I called her up, and I said, we had a good conversation. I said, I'll go see the property. I forget what she wanted, something like 50,000 or something. I don't know. Ended up buying it for 42,000. I'll show you that in a minute. But more importantly, just on a hunch, I thought, would you take 8%, which was less than the prevailing bank rates, which was between 8 and 9%? And she said yes. And I in hindsight, I should have asked for even a better deal. The challenge is I didn't know everything about her, and this was the last thing she had to take care of before she moved to New Orleans. I probably could have got it for even less, but I got a good deal. So the rents were a total of $900 a month. You see the taxes were a little over 2,000. Insurance was 351 a year. Maintenance repair averaged about 600 for the year. This is not capital improvements. It's strictly maintenance and repair. Changing doorknobs, fixing windows, things like that, cutting grass. Okay. Water was a little over 1,000. So my net operating income, which is a $900 a month, annualized was 10,800, right? So 10,800 minus these expenses left me a net income of 6737 on an annual basis. Divided by 12 is 561 per month. By today's standards, this will be all low, but back then this was pretty good. Okay, so I bought it for 42,000. I did give her a check. I wrote a check from a personal line of credit. Right, I literally borrowed the money for the down payment. Gave her a check for 5,000. Financed 37,000 at 30 for 30 years at 8%. So my principal and interest payment was only 271. Okay. And if you subtract 271 from 561, right, the net operating income minus my debt service left me a cash return of $290 a month. For the year, it's 3,485. Now, again, you couldn't live off of that. You could barely live off of that per month on today's standards. But the fact is, I didn't just have that property. Over time, I in that first year, I acquired 10 properties with a total of 30 units. Some were fourplexes, some were duplexes, some were threeplexes. If you add all that up on an annual basis, I was actually doing pretty good. And the cash on cash return was 70%. So let me explain this. If you want to just kind of take a deep breath here, and I'll give this to you in real simple terms, okay? Cap rate is your net operating income, this figure right here, NOI, divided by the purchase price, right? So cap rate, this right down here, 16% at the time of purchase, is taking the 6737 dividing by 42,000. The net operating income divided by the purchase price. That's cap rate. Cash on cash return, which is 70%, that's pretty amazing. And it is. And I've had a couple of them like that. But cash on cash return is different. Cash on cash return is the actual cash in your pocket after debt service. If you notice, net operating income does not account for debt service. It doesn't account for your principal and interest payments on your mortgage. Okay, it's income minus expense without including debt service. Cash on cash return does include debt service. So you divide that 3,485 by what cash you have into the property, which in this case was only 5,000. So 3,485 divided by 5,000 is just about 70%. Okay. Now, if you're wondering what a general rule of thumb is for cap rate and cash on cash return, first let me give them to you and then I'll explain. Cap rates, most investors like to see 10%. That's like a famous benchmark. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's what it is. Cash on cash return, they like to see 20%. Okay, and I actually was able to meet Robert Kiyosaki one time in person, spent the day with him and had dinner in the whole 9 yards. And he said he generally would like to see a minimum 20% cash on cash return. And by the way, little side note here, what's interesting about that conversation, we never even discussed cap rate. And that's when I realized real investors only use cap rate to determine what the area provides. Okay, what's standard for the area. When they analyze properties, they're interested in cash on cash return. Okay, so let me take a quick pause here. First off, if you could let me know, if you could type in the chat box, just say okay or A-okay or something like that. Let me know that you're okay understanding the difference between cap rate and cash on cash return. Because if you got that, we're going to have an easier time going through class. So everybody says we're okay. And by the way, if you don't, it's okay. A lot of people don't get this the first time. It's cash on cash return baffles people because all they've ever heard was cap rate. Okay. Well, this was the first lesson tonight. When you work with investors, make sure you talk about cash on cash return. Okay. So in any case, that's when I bought it. Now let's look at what happened when I sold it. So I raised the rents. I went up a little bit on rents. I forget how much. Taxes went up a wee little bit. Not much change, by the way. I did add management. Okay. And by the way, another big lesson for anybody investing in real estate, buy and hold, is you may want to manage your first couple just to learn the ropes and get a lot of gray hair like me. And I'm okay with that because at least now I know you know what it takes to manage a property. Then when you hire a manager, you know what to expect from them and they know you know what to expect from them. Okay, that's very important. Now, if you look at this, I was probably paying somewhere around, I don't know what that comes out to, maybe 7.5% or something. I forget, 7% maybe. But another quick tidbit here. Whenever you buy a rental property, even if you're going to self-manage, make sure you still include in your budget money for property management. And when you price the property, make sure you price the property including the expense of property management. Okay, I'll explain that in a second. The reason is if you do grow a portfolio, you get to the point where you don't want to manage them anymore. I'm telling you. And you want to either build your own management company like I did or hire one. Well, if you don't have that in your budget and you decide later on, gee, I know I'm gonna pay to manage it, but you didn't account for that in your budget when you first bought the property, you'll find yourself sometimes in a deficit. You won't have enough money to pay for property management, or it'll cut so deeply into your cash flow, it will make it to be not such a good deal anymore. One of the big rookie lessons I've learned is always include property management money, even if you intend not to use it. And the other thing is this, your time is valuable. And if you're going to self-manage, you better pay yourself for that. That's different than profit. Profit is what you get as the owner for the privilege of owning the property. That's your profit. A management fee is like income or salary for actually engaged in labor, manual labor, physical labor, mental labor, all that, and you deserve to get paid for that, okay? So if everybody okay with that, what I just described there, that is a big lesson. I'm probably one of the older people in the group here, but I'm telling you, you can keep your beautiful young hair longer if you just follow these rules. Okay, a couple of things here. Here's when I sold it. I sold it for $42,000, so I sold it for $30,000 more than I bought it for. The down payment I received was $15,000, and the buyer got a loan for $57,000. They got a 20-year term at 5%. We'll save that subject for a different day. There's a lot of science behind a 20-year mortgage. It's worth it, believe me. It's better than 30-year, and quite frankly, not as painful as 15-year. In the case, his debt service was $376 a month. And if you subtract that, at the end of the day, I don't know if I did that math right there too much. Oh, you did. I was pretty close. Yeah, 575 minus 376 is just about $200 a month, or $2,400 for the year. So that person's cap rate, apologize, this cutoff was 9.5%. That's about as close to 10% as you can get, and he took the deal. And he had a 16% cash on cash return. So remember, his cap rate, 9.5%, is the 6,902, which is your net operating income, divided by the total purchase price. That's cap rate, right? Cash on cash return is the 2,400, the actual cash in pocket, divided by the down payment, right? Remember, cash on cash return doesn't use the whole purchase price. It only uses what you put into the property, in this case, down payment. Okay, so he got a pretty good deal. I mean, he was happy. He was an engineer, so we get along just great. And he was happy with the deal. So here's the bottom line here. Bottom line is I put $5,000 of my own money into the property, okay? I made about $3,000 a year positive cash flow, a little bit better and more over time, all right? I also took depreciation, okay, which added up to about $15,400. I did have to recapture that when we sold it. The mortgage I paid down by $5,000, right? So I just equity build up of $5,000 plus the $30,000 I got on the sales side. And if you factor in the cash flow per year, add everything up, I sold the building for 72,000, difference to 30,000. When you add that up, all up, I turned $5,000 into $70,000 in 11 years. So if you add up the 30,000 plus the 3,000 per year, which is 15,000, right? And the equity build up, and plus the depreciation, I made about 70,000 bucks off of five. I turned 5,000 into 70,000 in 11 years. I don't know what the rate of return that is, but that's probably 1,400%. So who here would like to make 1,400% on your money in 11 years on any amount? I see some smiles. Yep. That's the magic of investing in real estate. You get to use leverage. And so your return is based on what you put into the property, not the total price of the property. Okay. In any case, a couple of lessons here. And these are some, I could go into all kinds of details. In fact, I wrote another book called Turning Rental Problems into Real Estate Profits. And I described in great detail all the lessons I learned from being a landlord when I self-managed early on, and everything I learned. Number one is cash is king. In case of business, that's still true today. You can always get the best deals. It doesn't mean you don't finance, but you just refinance later on, right? You recapitalize yourself, but first go into the deal paying cash. If you can't do that because you don't have cash, that's why you need to take this training so you can learn how to do that. Okay. I'm trying to be polite here, but it happens. You name it. I experienced it. I took one letter out of the alphabet. Of all 26 letters, I took the letter D, and here's all the things that came up just in the letter D. I've had people die in my apartments. I've had people do drugs, unfortunately, in my apartments. I've had dogs, diapers, divorce, dirt, drains clog up, damage. It goes on and on. But that's the downside of the business. These things can and do happen. So you need a system. In fact, you can't grow without a system. If you don't have a system, you're going to hit your ceiling very quickly. Okay, you need a precise checklist to follow, just like an airline pilot. You need to know the neighborhoods. You or your investor agent. Somebody needs to be the expert, either you or your investor agent. And whenever I bought a property, I always went around, introduced myself to the neighbors, gave them my business card, and said, I'm extremely interested in the well-being of my property and the neighborhood. Okay. And would they please call me at the first sign of trouble? And they loved it. In fact, the boroughs and the neighborhoods and the townships I bought in, they all knew me. And I would, go to meetings and things like that, participate. In fact, the zoning meeting I was in last Monday night, we won, by the way. I went back. It was one of the old towns I used to buy in. Turns out one of my clients was buying there, and they remember me. And we won this. We won the hearing that night. We won the zoning case because I went in there. They hadn't seen me in 10 years, and stated, I said, based on my experience in this area, that's why this was the highest and best use for this property. And they failed the first time, but they won the second time, not just because I was there, but because of what I said. All right. In any case, somebody's got to know the area. In any case, you need an investor who knows what they're doing. Okay. This is vitally important. So we have what we call an investor agents, and some of them are on the call tonight. Okay. This one thing alone will hold you back or propel you forward. Most real estate agents do not know this stuff. They don't. Okay. That's why we created a program for them, and they're certified. It's the only place they can get the certification. So in any case, a couple other things. Operate with compassion. You're going to have things happen. This is a real study in human nature. When you own properties and you're renting out your properties, you're providing housing. Between the three, food, shelter, clothing, you're providing one of the three necessities of life, so to speak. So operate with compassion, because stuff's going to happen. There's floods, fires, people get divorced, people have babies, people die, people get jobs and lose jobs. All kinds of things happen, okay? So you have to operate with compassion, but you also have to operate with an iron fist. And I use Mother Teresa as a role model because she was able to do both, and so can you. She was probably maybe all of 4'10" or something like that, and a heart. I mean, she was she's a saint now, right? because of her compassion for other human beings. But she also ruled at one time the largest charitable organization on the planet. She ran it, and she ran it with an iron fist too. By the way, if you ever want to read a really good book, read the autobiography of Mother Teresa. Great book. In any case, you need to learn as much as you can learn. Remember, education plus information plus action. You have got to constantly learn, read and study. I always have, I still today read and study and take training. And need a good teacher and a coach. Whether it's me or anybody else, make sure you choose wisely. There's a lot of the infomercial guys out there, and some of them I know personally. I'm not knocking them. I'm just telling you, you don't have to spend $50,000 on an education in this scenario. Just join your local investor group. Join the GIG, Global Investor Group. Line yourself up with the investor agents on the Zoom call tonight. Okay. And you can work with me if you want to. But I'm going to refer you out to the guys on the call, but I will absolutely teach you if that's what you want. You can definitely accomplish a lot more efficiently by following the system. Okay. So in any case, passive income equals freedom. And it's true, when your money works for you and your properties work for you, you have time to do other things. The challenges are you probably are already doing other things. You've already got a business. You've already got a job. You've got children. You've got parents you care for. I mean, there's all kinds of challenges and requirements of your time and energy. But I'm telling you, if you just carve out a little bit of, it doesn't have to be every single day, maybe an hour, twice during the week, or an hour on Tuesday, hour on Thursday, and maybe a couple hours on a Saturday morning, every other Saturday, you can invest in real estate. It does not take that much time. In any case, so let's talk about this a little bit more. There's something called alignment, okay? And before you go out and start investing a lot of hard-earned money, time, and energy in the rental properties, you really, really should have a vision for yourself that is more encompassing than just making money. Money is not the end game. And I know sometimes that sounds counterintuitive, but it's not. When you really understand, how important your vision is and how being in alignment with that vision, how important it is, I promise you, money will simply become a measurement of how successful you are realizing your vision. So let me rephrase that. I'm gonna repeat that and slow down. When you go about this correctly, the money isn't the end game, the goal. The money is simply a measurement of how well you've achieved your goals and realized your vision. Okay, money measures how well you've done realizing your vision. That's what I'm getting at. So you have to have the bigger picture, have the vision, and hopefully your vision will include some of the giving back, like providing housing for needy people in your community. All right, that's part of alignment. So what's different about this is we do focus on education. We know you want to do deals, and you absolutely will do deals, and we do focus on that, but we focus on education first, education plus information, and then we take action. And what's different is we do it with you. You're not out there all on your own. We literally walk you through the process. We get involved with property identification, property analysis, and negotiating, okay? Now there's some myths out there, all right? People say, I don't have enough money. I know people that have started off investing with no money, right? I'm not one of those late night, no money down. You don't have to have cash or credit to buy properties. That's not what I'm talking about. There are strategies, legitimate strategies you can use so you don't have to have actual cash on hand to buy properties, okay? So it is possible. And we have resources on our team through the global investor groups that you can tap into for financing. I don't have enough time. Is it going to take time? Yes. Is it going to take 30 hours a week? No. Like I just mentioned a moment ago, 1 or 2 hours during the week, a couple hours every other Saturday morning, you can build a little portfolio. Now, you're not going to be able to self-manage with those hours, but you can definitely delegate, hire a manager or hire a property management company to take that for you. Now's not a good time. Whenever I hear that, I know I've got to be patient and calm down. But the fact is there's never not a good time to invest in real estate when you're buying rentals. There are always ways to find and structure deals on buying rentals, whether the market's up or down. It does not matter. The rental market does not follow in step with the rest of the economy. It does not follow in step with the single family home owner occupant market. That is different. The investor market is different than the owner occupant market. Okay. I don't trust that I'll use it. Well, at some point, the pain of staying the same will become greater than the perceived pain of taking a step forward and taking action. Okay, so let me repeat that. If you're comfortable and you're not really taking a lot of action right now, meaningful forward moving action, it's probably because you're comfortable and you're good enough. And good enough is one of the worst places to be. At some point, you realize it's not good enough what you currently are doing. And so when your current situation, when the pain of that becomes greater than the perceived pain of the required change to grow, you will make the change. Okay. So 5 steps. All right, we're going to work this backwards. We start with the end in mind. We help you figure out what is your vision, what are your goals. We show you how to get the money, and we help you find the properties and the right sellers. Then we do show you how to do property analysis, and this is all in step with each other. This is like a joint venture or a partnership. Okay, and finally, show me the money. How do you actually? What's the exit strategy? How do you actually make money on that? So let's start with the end in mind. And you can take a screenshot if you want to write this down. Because we use the money as a measurement, you should figure out how much. How much do you want? Why do you want it? When do you want it? And where do you want it? Okay. There's also tax strategies, by the way, you should use. I don't know if we have the tax strategies are actually in the home study course, but I don't think they're in the slideshow. It changes over time too, by the way. In any case, getting the money, you can start with cash, which is where I recommend. I know some of you have heard, well, wait a minute, I was told don't use my own money. And I know where they're coming from, but all that philosophy came out years ago, back in the 50s. Then it was recycled in the 70s and 80s when interest rates went sky high. And people are saying, again, you don't ever want to use your own cash. And on the surface, I would disagree with that 100%. You definitely want to use cash to get the best deals. But it doesn't mean you don't borrow. You just acquire the property first. Then later on, you borrow with lower terms and lower interest rates. So you do get to replenish your cash on a regular basis. And you're also getting preferred rates and terms on your loans because you already own the property. There's more to that. In the training, we get into that more detail. Okay, and you can access that through stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs. Okay, private investors. So we have for those of you who are interested, we have a way of identifying who the private investors are, private lenders in any area in the country. It doesn't matter. We can look by county, state, zip code, town. We can find you the private investors in the area. But one of the things I touched on earlier, we do have a business lender on our team. He lends in all 50 states, and he lends only on invested properties, and it's not hard money. Okay, it's conventional and commercial money. Now, what's coming on board is the ability to borrow against pooled cash values on whole life policies on a large scale. We're working on that right now. We got 3 people in the beta test, and once that's done, we'll file the SEC paperwork, and we'll be able to have inside access to our own money for you, the investor. How about them apples? Okay. Whole life policies, I just touched on that. You can do it individually on your own. There's been a secret of the wealthy for a long time. We get whole life policies. We build up the cash value. We borrow against the cash value. It's not a bank loan. We're borrowing from the whole life insurance company against our own cash value of our policy. So we determine the rates and terms. How about them apples? Okay. In any case, 401ks, you can buy properties inside self-directed IRAs. A little bit of a misspelling there. How about that? And you can, if you're actively employed, you can borrow against your 401k. Lots of options here. Okay. And last resort is hard money lenders. I do not recommend that. Unfortunately, it's the most popular because they promote it like it's the easiest. It's not easy. That first word is hard, H-A-R-D, for a reason, right? The terms are hard, they're difficult. and the repayment terms are difficult. And if you don't pay back, the consequences are difficult. Okay. And okay, so that's number two. Number three, finding the properties. Well, we've got some pretty neat tricks up our sleeve. Okay. We do direct marketing. It's very highly targeted direct marketing. We go after the owners directly outside the listing services. We of course use social media. We do workshops like the gig that you're in. Okay, we use that to work with the good investors and give an outlet for the selling investors to sell their properties. Craigslist, it's still there. We still use it. All kinds of internet tools and workshops eventually morph into investor clubs. We use those too. Now, something that's not on here, okay, is we have a tool I bought. Just go ahead and put your pencils down for a second. Something that's not on this PowerPoint is the fact that we own a product we bought. It's made for investors. There's a lot of tools out there: FreedomSoft, Revo Gateway, Remine, all kinds of tools. This one is different. It uses data aggregators in a real-time fashion to go after court record, property records, public data on any property, any person, anywhere. Every single property in the United States, every parcel is accessible from this system. We can see who the owners are. We can see if they have any debt or no debt. We can see if they're upside down on their property. We can see if it's vacant. We can see if they've owned it more than 10 years or 30 years. We can see all these things, and we also can get their phone numbers and emails, and we do that. So if you're an investor and you want to take advantage of that, you definitely need to talk to your investor agent here right on the line here, and tell them you want them to find you these properties that are not on the MLS, okay? And the owners just need to have a conversation to see if they want to sell. That is a huge advantage. And 99% of people do not have this tool, okay? But we do, okay? Because I bought it for the whole team. Every member of my team gets that tool, guys. So make sure you remember to talk to them, all right? Okay, so number 4, property analysis. There's physical analysis, financial analysis, calculators, spreadsheets, rehab forms, pro formas. So I want you to write this down. This was actually not quite in order. We always start with physical analysis, okay? I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. We always start with financial analysis. We do desktop analysis first, as much as we can with the data we have. Then and only then do we go to the property and do physical analysis. So in other words, we get our list of prospective properties. We do as much financial analysis as we can on the properties before we ever hop in the car. So we always ask for the data first, okay? And we do our projections and figure out what the property should be worth. Then we have to do a physical analysis, and there's forms for that also, to see what needs to be done to the property so it's in full marketable condition, like it's fully rentable and we're ready to go, okay? You also want to use the right calculators and spreadsheets. So we have all those. If I have time, I'll show you some of those tonight. In any case, in rehab forms, in fact, I'll tell you what, for those of you interested in this, when the class is over, just hang tight. We'll spend a few more minutes, and I'll go into some of the systems in the back office for you and show you what we're talking about, okay? Well, let's get through the class first. Pro formas, these are simply projections. So you take your analysis that you've done, then you factor in what you saw in your visit to the property as far as backing off deferred maintenance. And you come up with your pro forma for how the property should perform, including ongoing income, okay? All right, then finally, show me the money, okay? Whoops. There's more than ways to benefit and profit from buying and holding rental properties. Number one, of course, is cash flow. Most people invest in rentals because they want the cash flow. All right, believe it or not, some people invest primarily for appreciation and then secondarily for cash flow, right? These are people that generally, they're later on in their life, they've already owned properties for 10, 20, 30 years, and they're looking for more appreciation. And it's also geographical. Out in the San Francisco Bay Area, we look for almost all appreciation. We know we're not going to cash flow, so we focus on appreciation. Then you have the appreciation, which is the phantom write-off for owning the property. You get to depreciate the property over 27 and a half years. And even if the property goes up in value, the IRS gives you that privilege of taking a phantom write-off, about 3.5%, 3.41% per year. Equity pay down, it means over time your mortgage is paid down. So you've got appreciation, your equity pay down, so your equity spread, what your worth is, net worth in that property grows in two ways over time. And finally, a sale. You can sell it 10 years later, 12 years later. The average hold time on single family rentals happens to be between 10 and 12 years. How about that? So in any case, there's lots of ways you can skin this cat. On the cash flow side, it goes even deeper. So you can use Airbnb. You can do assisted living. You can do corporate housing. And you can do just straight rentals, do it the old fashioned way. So let's go over some examples here, okay? Actually, by the way, for quick, let me do this. Let me take a quick check on the chats. Let's take a few minutes, guys, and take a pause. And if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. So Jackie's asking, how can I buy with no money? Well, Jackie, what I'll do is if you can do me a favor, send an email to me tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow, and I'll send you the chapter in my 6th book that's on creative purchasing techniques, okay? And many of them do not require any money, okay? So if you can email me, Jackie, that'd be great. I'll send you that. Just the book is called The Massive Passive Cash Flow Method. And well, maybe it's not chapter 6. In any case, it's maybe chapter 4. I'm not sure. But in there, it describes in detail 30 different techniques you can use to acquire properties without having a lot of money, okay? I'll give you one example. You can offer what's called a wraparound mortgage. So if somebody has an existing property with a mortgage and you want to buy the property, you can offer them a mortgage that wraps around their existing mortgage. So maybe they're paying $1,000 a month. Maybe you pay them $2,000 a month, and you get possession of the property. They have their mortgage paid for plus some cash flow, and you get the property. And then a couple of years later, you can refinance and own it outright. Okay. In any case, that's one example of no money down technique. All right, so let's look at some examples. This was a property. The reason I put this in here, I actually just went by this property the other day for the first time. It was last Monday at the zoning hearing. It was one of the properties I owned in that area. Now I bought it originally for $80,000. Okay, I sold it for $132,000, and that was back about 8 or 9 years ago. All right, it just sold the day of the hearing last Monday, the zoning hearing, and guess what it sold for? Just take a wild guess. Type it in if you want to, or you can unmute yourself if you want to. Don't be shy. Let's see what kind of numbers we get here. So I bought it for 86. I sold it. That was 99. I bought it, sold it in 2012. 13 years later, sold it for 132. They just sold it 9 years later. And let's see what the guesses are. Ooh, we got some close ones here. It was actually 276. 276. You know what's funny, guys? I'm just gonna kind of loosen up here for a second. I've owned a lot of properties, hundreds of them. And even though I made some decisions that weren't as good as others, I never actually regretted any property I bought. What I regretted is the ones I sold. And this is an example of one of them, Isn't that amazing? So that's 802, 804 Taylor. The person who bought it, by the way, was my former property manager. So in any case, so Goodwin Way was a 5-unit. Remember, these are old now, so that's why these prices are so low. I bought it for 50, sold it for 100,000, more than double the cash flow. It was actually a 4-unit, and I added a 5th unit to it. Sherman Avenue was 9 units, paid 111,000 for it, sold it for 185, and not quite doubled the cash flow, but added another 65% of the cash flow probably in that time frame. That was a good deal. South Sprague, this was a real small one. Bought it for 50, sold it for 75. In the meantime, I raised the cash flow from 600 to 1050. Okay. 19 Center Avenue. This was a 15 unit. The guy who's selling it was going into, I forget, what, bankruptcy, foreclosure or something. In any case, whatever it was, we got a good deal. We doubled the cash flow. This was all in 2 years, by the way. We actually flipped it. We flipped this building. 15 units, remodeled the whole thing, sold it for $725. How about them apples? You know, we literally sold it for, I think, what was that? What's the difference there? 275,000, is that what it is? Something like that. Does that sound like a good deal? How'd you like to make 275,000 in 2 years plus the cash flow? That's the kind of stuff that's out there. So in any case, this was the, let's see, I sold this. Actually, I sold it for 1.8. And now that guy's trying to sell it for 3.6. But we bought it. It's now 90 units, by the way. It was 78, now it's 90. We nearly doubled the cash flow, and we almost doubled we actually bought it for 950 and sold it for 18. We almost doubled our profit on that. But if you notice, there's a progression there. We started off small and grew bigger along the way. So my question to you is, are you going to be the next success story? There actually is a process for this, okay? Actually, who wants to be the next success story? Just do a hand raise or type in the chat box. There you go. I always wonder, why do people happily do that? Why do I got to keep raising my hands and all that? It's because it's exciting. That's why. We like to see you raise your hands. In any case, you know, I used to live this life, guys. What's funny, I had a boat. I had the big SUV with leather and all that stuff. And, you know, didn't have that home, but I had a pretty nice home. What happens is as you mature in life, you generally turn to steer away from material gains, and you focus on time with your family and time to do the things you want to do and serving others. So I like to do what I do. I leverage this, and the gigs is a form of ministry. So we have something called Healing House Foundation that we just got the 501(c)(3) for. So now we're in the position to give back, and we're doing these. The goal is to have a healing house everywhere we have a gig, a global investor group. So I'm not saying don't do these things. If you want to do these things, just keep it in perspective. The boat will eat you alive, literally. I mean, I've had 2 of them. And the second time I bought a boat, after the first time out, I remembered why I sold the first boat. They are fun, but they will just eat you alive, financially speaking. Cars are not worth it. None of these things really matter. What matters is how you show up in the world, and you know, how you serve others. It's just like Zig Ziglar says, serve enough other people, you'll get plenty of what you want. And it's all scriptural. You can, if you ever want to read a great business book, read the Bible. Okay, Think and Grow Rich. All those principles are taught in the Bible. Okay, and I'm not saying you can't find these in the Gita and the Quran and the Torah. You can. The same lessons are all the same. In any case, so here's the system. It's really training, it's education, plus mentorship, plus information, and plus action. That's the formula. The trick is you can do it on your own. No problem. Nobody judges you. But again, I can build a cell phone given enough time too, right? And enough money. But why wouldn't I go down to the store and buy a cell phone and be done in a half hour, right? And spend $800 as opposed to spending $8,000 on materials. So it's simple, it's easy to follow, it's proven. You know, I'm not the only smart guy in the world. There's plenty of other smart people. We just have it drilled down to a science. Number one. Number two is we actually have the most important part of your team, which is the investor agent. And they have access to the tools and the strategies and the calculators and the leads. That's the key thing. We now have a huge advantage over everybody else. When you live in abundance and prosperity, you generally do have more peace of mind. You know, more fulfillment because you can do the things you want to do and help others. There is no limit. I mean, once you understand the systems, learn the systems, there's no limit to how far you can go. We do them every Monday night. You get all the marketing techniques. Remember, that was one of the keys, right? And step number two was what marketing was in that step. And if you have all these up, it's a tremendous value, right? You get all the calculators and forms and spreadsheets. Hang out after class. I'm going to actually show you these things, okay? And show you why you want to work with your investor agents. We give you all the contract due diligence clauses when you make your offers. Pro formas and calculators, there's probably 6 of them that you can get for different purposes. And these are folks that when I was actively producing, all I do is I coach my agents now, guys. I only coach the agents. So if you want to get the goodies, you work with them because they have access to me, okay? You can gain access to me through them. That's how it works. And these are folks that I've worked with over the years, and you can see what they say. That's Pete Lewis. He was a U.S. airline pilot. I do make myself accessible, by the way. I have the same number, the same cell phone number I've had now for 10, 20, 30 years. I've had the same cell phone number. How about that? 1991. This is, but he didn't give the folks' names. This is Steve here, Steve Smith. Oh, there's a Jim Andrews. Okay. He actually became one of my agents back in the old days. Let's see. Not sure who that is. Oh, that's Martha Sasala. That's who that is. Martha Sasala. No, this is Martha Sasala. That's right. Her husband is also a pilot. So, in fact, her husband is friends with the other pilot. In any case, we do have certain techniques that we like to share with people. Like when it comes to assisted living, Airbnb, VRBO, there are certain strategies we use. All right. So I'm going to go into, let's get out of this and go here. All right, I'm going to go into the members area. So what I'm doing, guys, I just take a quick pause. I'm going to go into our back office and show you everything that's on here. All right, everything is login controlled. There are multiple training programs. We're going over what's called rental profits tonight. There's programs on flipping, managing rentals, wholesaling, commercial, and of course, the investor agent program. In the resource area, here, the reason I'm showing you this is if you do one of the home study courses, and I'm going to show you that in a second, it's not even $497. It's I think the agents on the team were able to get it for $396. That's what you would get it for, okay? I've been teaching for a long time, and we've got over 300 recorded webinars. All you do is you click on this taskbar, look for your subject, and it goes back to, I think, 2015. Everything from 1031 exchange to mine within self-directed IRAs, it's all in there, okay? So you get access to all of that. That's in addition to the training material, okay? And I'll open up one of the training programs and show you what it looks like. All of the forms you need, property inspection reforms, analysis rehab forms, calculators, there's multiple calculators. There's even an online real-time calculator. All of that is part of what you get. We also have a bunch of tools. So each one of these is a Word document that has a bunch of downloads, or sorry, a bunch of links in there. There's several links for wholesaling, several links for flipping, several links for buying rentals, for property management. Canadian links are in here. But I'm going to show you one right now that is pretty awesome. Every one of these, this helps you know who the bankers are to work with, actual name, address, phone number, email, the whole 9 yards. This one shows you which banks have foreclosures. This is based on census data. But this one right here, it's based on IRS tax filings. It shows you not population, but wealth. Where's wealth leaving? It's leaving the Northeast and California, and it's going to these green states like Texas and the Southeast, okay? And if you click on any one state, so let's see, who do we have here? We got some Floridians. So let's click on Florida. All right. You can see money's leaving Miami, okay? And it's going everywhere else. In fact, all the other money in the country, a lot of it's coming to all over Florida. Look right here, Tampa, right? Hillsborough County, Pasco County. There's one that's not showing up. I'm not sure why. There's Manatee County, Sarasota County, Pinellas. There it is, Pinellas. I wanted to look at. Let me look at it over here. Brevard County, there are some awesome deals over there. It's crazy. But that's just an example of some of the resources we have. That, all of these are websites you get to use for yourself. In any case, we have our own proprietary marketing campaigns. There's 20 of them. Each one has its own checklist to follow, its own nurturing sequence, downloadables if you have something to deliver. So you can use this as an investor agent or as an investor. All right. And I'll show you something else here. This is a map of our investor agent. So what's cool is if you're working with Mo in St. Louis, Missouri, and you want to invest in anywhere else, these other places, she knows these people personally. She can refer you to them. Okay. And not only that, you get access to all these other investors, right, from all the other groups. That's all the groups in here. In any case, any questions on this stuff, guys? Let me take a quick pause. How are we doing on time? We're actually doing pretty good. So let me do a quick pause here. What I'm doing now is I'm just showing you some of what you get by working with the team. And if you want to do the training, this other stuff is all accessible. Okay, you get access to it through your investor agent. So, so if you have questions, now's the time to speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, I'm going to show you one more thing here. This is a tool we use to find people and properties. We can find probate leads, bankruptcy, foreclosure, people who have owned the properties 10 years, 30 years, all kinds of things. So right now, for example, we know investors are selling single family homes. So we use this term right here, all right, because it's made up of two criteria, absentee owner and long-term owner. We know that's important because we study this stuff. We know that they're selling their houses more today than they were historically. They're taking their profit now because they feel like they're at the top of the market, okay? So let's just do a search. Actually, let's do this. Let's do a search just on multifamily, okay? Owned by investors who've owned them more than 10 years. And let's do a search here. Let's do Allegheny County. Let's type in county, Pennsylvania, because I'm right next door to it right now. And that's where the big city of Pittsburgh is. But chances are it's going to be too many for us to manage. But I just want to show you how powerful this tool is. All right. There are 8,612 properties in Allegheny County that are multifamily properties owned by people who've owned them more than 10 years. So I'm gonna narrow it down, and I'm gonna focus on the owners that own it free and clear. Okay. Look at that. There are 533 investors that own multifamily properties in Allegheny County that have owned them more than 10 years and own them free and clear, absolutely no mortgage. Would anybody like to have the file with all these names and addresses on there? Other than me. Isn't that amazing? And you can find out everything you want. If you look at, let's do high equity instead of free and clear. So you get a lot more. So 1,276. So let's just look at this guy right here. See if I recognize one of these. I know Oakdale. Let's grab this one right here. Dempsey Street. So there's the property, 101 Dempsey Street. The owner Anna Trunzo lives in Coropolis. That's where my daughter lives. She's got a giant lot, nearly an acre. The house is big too. It's nearly 3,000 square feet. All right. Remember, it's a multifamily though. So we can see when it was built. We can see what the taxes are. Guys, she's only paying $733 a year in property taxes. West Allegheny, I know exactly where that is. We've owned properties there. It gives you the real value versus the assessed value, right? You can see that she owes 47% of what she owns. She got a bank from J.P. Morgan in 2005, a loan, excuse me. Probably pulled her some of her equity out. You can see the transaction history too. So in any case, they must have been out in the family for quite a long time. So what we do is we skip trace these folks and we call them up on the phone or we send letters. But that's pretty much that's one of our tools. Okay. Now to learn more about the Global Investor Agent Team or the Rental Profits Without the Pain training program, just click on the links below. There's one link for each of the two subjects. Okay. And to make matters even better, I'm going to give you the chapter on creative purchasing techniques, how to invest in properties creatively. A couple of hundred pages of techniques, about 30 of them that I've actually done. So I don't just tell you how to do them, I give you real life examples. That's also part of it. So go ahead and grab it while you can. I look forward to seeing you and working with you. Take care. God bless.